Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video we are going to discuss how to refute the Alapin Sicilian. For me, whoever used this opening as a main repertoire as white is coward. Why? Because once you start playing Alapin, you're gonna notice how much this opening could be stable, and that's why many people are struggling how to play against this opening on the black side if you're a Sicilian player. If it's okay if you're mixing them up, of course, with some other openings and some other ideas, but I think having it as a main repertoire is definitely not giving you any advanced options in the future, general improvement and other stuff. Especially because in Alapin Sicilian, tactics are very low happening on the board. Usually it's relying on some man game knowledge. I'm not saying it's bad, of course, that's why a lot of people are annoyed by this opening as black. And in today's video we are going to discuss that. So we're gonna start by showing you 5 games, how I'm playing that. Some of games are from the past, some recent. So Alapin Sicilian you can reach, two ways. You can reach this delayed Alapin, which is usually transposing into the same stuff, but we're gonna take a look at both move orders. C3, knight f6, e5, and now knight e5. So I'm proposing this knight f6 idea rather than going for, here actually if you're going for the knight c6, you can also play d6, but if you're a knight c6 player, after c3, knight f6, like here you can also go for d5 of course, but I like to go knight f6. e5, knight e5, and now bishop c4 is one idea. I can tell you that when I play the move knight b6, many people are also sacrificing here on f7, which is of course total blunder. We're gonna see from the next game how to actually play against that. But here of course bishop e3 is the best move. And now since they didn't play the move d4, the whole point is to lock down this bishop with the move c4, push them back to c2, and now just go for d5. The best option for white is to take this guy here in the middle, and after queen takes, to go castles. After that we go bishop g4, and our idea is pretty much trying to trade some pieces, also go for pressure on this knight. The rook to d8 can come, sometimes even we are castling long. Also there is a lines where this bishop comes here, but also there is the lines where the bishop comes here. Now many players here would play something like h3, where you go bishop h5, and sometimes people are even going for this crazy move g4, which is not good at all, just because it's opening up the king, and I can see this happening on lower levels, of course. Rook e1 is of course here the best option, and now we can make a long side castle. So the point now is we would like to double up the pawns here, opt for some endgame, and continue the game this way. This is nothing much. I can tell you that after d5 on the lower levels, like my opponent respawned here, they're creating this pawn chain and they're thinking that this is good. Of course, anytime that they do that, you're always taking at the sun, because this bishop here will be very strong together with this pawn chain if you make it alive. So that's why you're taking, and you need some space, of course. And we are having sort of, as you see, French structure, but we didn't develop the pawn here in e6, so our bishop actually can get out. I missed the idea of going g6, bishop f5. I played bishop g4 instantly. I'm trying to, go after this knight, play e6, and just normally develop my pieces, nothing much. My opponent went for bishop f4. He could play here knight e4, that's actually better, but I missed the move g6. So from the calculation perspective of view, since this is a blitz game, all deep calculations and sometimes little blunders are irrelevant here. If this is a classical game, of course I would consider g6 and bishop f5 because it looks very logical, but I just wanted to get out with my bishop as quick as possible and to not burn so much time in the opening. Then we got something like this, and as you see I again got this option. They went castles, and now I just trade this bishop. So my opponent is also rushing a lot. I'm managing to exchange his strong bishop, and now you have very healthy game. I played bishop e7. My next idea is to go rook c8, and even after that I can castle short, but the point is I can even go g5. So I'm playing very good version of all these Kara French structures, where even after g5 I'm creating very interesting attack on the king side, where I'm actually putting pressure and trying to trap this bishop. They went h3, now went g4, of course, whenever you have a chance to open up the situation, why not? This rook is now creating a lot of interesting threats on the line. Maybe I can later threaten to trade this bishop and bring my queen to the game. Also, these knights are very flexible. My opponent went knight h2. Now for some reason Engine is proposing to go king d7, putting the king in the center. I was not sure about that, just because on the d line some pressure, but since I'm having the knight here, I'm not in trouble. And also my king can walk to b8, which is a great king maneuver. On the other side, the point of that maneuver is to bring the queen to the game and try to go for checkmate on the h line. Instead I went bishop h4, which is totally natural move. My opponent went for queen d3, I took here, they took back, and now I just bring my pieces in. So that was the whole point. I won my king here, rook h7, rook h8, bring my knights in, take this pawn maybe, and that was my plan. So what happened in the game? For some reason my opponent ran out of the time here. I don't know, did he miss something here or blunder? I'm not entirely sure. But maybe he thought that after rook takes b2, knight f5 is very strong. They will play queen d3, and now I have some ideas of here g3 or something. But to be honest, maybe he just lost connection. Anyway, look at the position, it's so beautiful. Like knight out of the game, we collect already some pawns, our king is very safe, and that's actually game over. So whenever you play d5, it's actually a great idea, because you know that all lines with d4 here are good for you. So this is pretty much the same. d6 or d5 are the same, but d5 is actually putting the pressure on your opponent, thus he knows that e takes d6 is practically only line, as you see also according to Engine, that leads to normal game for white. So this is the first game. The second game went the similar way. So the delayed Alapin, knight f6, e5, knight c6, and now my opponent went bishop c4, knight b6, and now this guy just went for bishop f7. I was very surprised about that. I thought he knows something here very deep, but actually it's just very simple. After taking with king and trying to go for queen f3 and queen f7, you just need to go queen e8 and knight e8. That's the best way how you can defend. I did something similar on d4. I just took push d5. My opponent went e6, so he's actually preparing this trick. I went queen e8 immediately. Now he wants obviously queen f7, and just after knight e8 game is over, because he's also losing this pawn. My queen is coming to g6. Pawn in the middle is protected, so this sacrifice looks dangerous, but if you know how to respond like this, it's over. You can even just think during the game, like what's the deal here, because you see that I'm even having more time on the clock. So I saw the sacrifice option and then just played queen c6. There is actually double attack, and also knight is pinned, so they cannot recover from this. And I won the game very quickly actually, because I'm just piece up and I just need to put my king. This is a nice stuff. Just put a king on h7. There's no light square bishop. You're very safe. Now you're looking to open up your other bishop. And yeah, that's it. Like he couldn't do anything. Of course, trading is very important. And now I mentioned in the beginning of the video, what's the concept for Alapin? Just trade the pieces. Whenever you have a chance to simplify, just do it in the Alapin, because his pawns are usually overexposed, and this pawn on e5, like we're gonna see in other lines, is very weak when it comes to trading. Like he will not have defense over that pawn, and for the endgame this pawn is usually lost. So in Alapin it's really important to trade pieces. Of course, not always every single piece, but that's your idea, to not be afraid of trading. And you see, piece up, and that's it. We don't need to look anymore about this game. This is just game over. I mean, you can take a look yourself if you want. You can just find this game online. Okay, the other game comes to the different variation, but also delayed Alapin. It's pretty much, always. You can always transpose to that. Like if they play here c3, play knight f6. Don't start with knight c6, because they have d4. So e5, knight e5, and if they go knight f3, now you're just transposed into that line. If they go d4, we're gonna see something from that also. Knight f3, knight c6, c3, knight f6, knight e5. So all pretty much the same. Always you're taking here. And the point is this inclusion of bishop c4. The other line is going c takes d4 and bishop c4, two popular lines. By the way, if they take here with a knight, just this pawn on e5 is hanging, so you're now just clean pawn up. You need to stabilize your position by developing and going castles, probably bringing the knight back and trying to get some center with your pawns now. So after bishop c4, you bring your knight always back to b6, they go here, and now like the similar line earlier I told you, you always go d5. Because you want, if they go for something like this, you just get a very good version of French, since you didn't close this bishop yet. You see there is no e6. So now after bishop g4, black is already slightly better in this opening. You're going to play e6, then, you know, you're going to open up this bishop. Again, you're looking for trades, since, you know, trading in French defense is usually comfortable. On any h3, you're already threatening to take this guy because queen cannot recapture. And there is a pawn hanging here, so they must do something like, you know, bishop e3 maybe. You play e6, they go castles, you go bishop e7, something like this, then rook c8, and some communication and ideas will happen on this c line. So that's why after d5 they have to take here, that's the best for white. Then we take back with queen, not with a pawn, because when we take with a pawn, then after knight takes d4, we're gonna have this problematic pawn on d5, isolated pawn, which is for now fine. You see, it's not giving so much big advantage for white in the opening. It's just the concept that we don't want to accept here if we don't need it. So we take with queen, and now they can retake in the middle, but usually everyone opts for castles because it's more sharp line. Now you go bishop e6, trying to refute this bishop on b3. Knight e3 is a very clever idea. They want to go knight b5. So we are now taking on c3. That's a really important inclusion. If you take on b3, they'll take back with queen, develop the queen, then rook comes in, and suddenly your king feels unsafe. If you're not familiar with the theory here as black, you're gonna get in a very big trouble. So the best option is to take on c3 here, and lovely or not, you have to accept this position. After knight b5, trade of queens, they need to take back with rook. You need to stop knight c7. That's very forcing, so we are still in the theory. They will take your bishop, double up your pawns, and now they will come back and take this guy on c3. And this position is fine for black, believe it or not. You're pawn up, but the point is these pawns are not weak as it looks like, and you're gonna get developed sooner or later. Your point is g6, you wanna go bishop g7, and later on trying to, you know, build up some, you know, dark square fortress in the middle. It looks very, you know, disgusting having this pawn structure, but remember, trading simplification is fine for you. And pawn, even double pawn in the endgame is pawn up, so don't worry about that. And that's why I'm telling you that white could always go in these kind of positions, having this little initiative and play this. Of course, this looks disgusting also to play on the black side, and I'm not a fan of these positions, but when they play Alapin, this is the best way how you can respond to their opening. And also on the white side, if you take a look and flip the board here, for example, you will notice that it's not so much simple for them what to do. If black gets bishop g7, castles, some knight jumps here, you know, offer more trades, then this pawn will actually become very annoying pawn, like it actually happened in the game. So my opponent went rook b1, and he's already start losing the track of what he actually has to do here. He needs to provide quick pressure on my pawns here, on the b7, the e6, but he's playing rook b1. Then I play bishop g7, they go knight e4. Then I go e5. Maybe not a best move, I should just go castles here, but my plan with e5 is to go knight e4. It's again against the rules of the, you know, chess, like why you're closing your bishop, but the point is I want just to make a more strength on d4, and when I jump here offer some trades, you know. Actually, it was much better to go castles, but I was not confident against what to do against this move, but apparently rook f6 defending this pawn is super nice. If they come back or something, I will go rook f5. If they go back again here, I'll do something about that. You know, even ignoring this pawn, now we got already a lot of, you know, tempis, and we can simply develop our pieces towards middle. You can see already it's -1 per something for white. So that's why I played e5, trying to be quick, not to think so much in the opening. Then knight e4. For engine, it's inaccuracy. For me, it's a very logical move, to be honest. If they accept the trade, I'm very happy with that. Because then next move is e5, then I will go knight e5, then I will jump somewhere here. I will just correct my pawn structure. From the practical point of view, this looks very good to me. And I felt like that during the game. He went knight e1, and I immediately know that this is not a good move. Like, whenever you treat your knight back, losing your track of initiative, you know, you're not in a good shape here. I went castles, My opponent went bishop a3, putting the pressure here on this pawn. I went knight e5, trying to defend my pawn on e7. He went here and now he blundered. So the thing is, I played knight c3, but I just missed the inclusion before that, knight e2, and when he does king f1, I just go knight c3 now. And I'm winning the exchange, and that's it, game over. So that's because I was rushing. I was not focused on tactics here, as generally I'm telling you, in Alapin it's very rarely seeing the tactics in the very early stage of the opening. I was more focusing on trades, as you see, which is not a bad move, it's just a very big miss. I'm keeping the same advantage as usual. And okay, I let him take this pawn back, he loses some time there, but I got my initiative. You see, now my rooks are active. Open F line, second rank, pawn trouble, planning to push e4 next, then I'll win this pawn on f2 and game is over. So he went very nice move, rook d2, trying to trade something. I went e4. It's not in accuracy, it's one of the best moves, so I don't know why this, GameReviewChess.com went crazy. So e4 is the best move. 91. Now I decided to take, and now improving the other piece. So I'm actually looking forward seeing how he's going to improve this knight, because this knight is absolutely restricted. Rook c1 is not possible because of just knight e2. So king f1 is reasonable move, stopping knight e2, and now I go knight b5. So my plan is actually to improve my knight. I am aware that this knight here is not a best piece. So maybe my knight, will support also this square. I can jump. Maybe it's not actually the best. Maybe I should just start walking with my king in. I don't know why I played knight b5, but for me that moment looked very promising. Then I start now walking with my king. I brought the knight back. Now it's ideal spot because he can't move the rook anymore. This pawn is always in trouble. Then he went king d1, and I'm just bringing my king closer, also pushing some pawns. So trading here is fine for me, because now I can focus on all these weaknesses and he's generally passivity in pieces. My king is very fast. Here I got some pressure on all these bad pawns. You see this? This is all weaknesses. So when you have a lot of weaknesses to track in the endgame, you're just getting super advantage. And now my rook comes from the other side. He tried something here, to trick me like rook f1, but I have just g5, and this rook endgame is completely winning for me. I hope I didn't spoil anything here. Actually, I think I sacrificed my rook for this pawn and simply promote the queen on the other side, and yeah, that's it. He actually ran out of time here. So you see, it's usually leading towards the endgame, all these Alapin variations. Let's see another game where we're again seeing the delayed Alapin option. But now not bishop c4, now c takes d4, which is another very popular line. I like to play here d6. They go bishop c4, and now you have option here for knight b6 or bishop e6, which is the popular. But I like d takes e5, which gives some very nice fight. When they take back here, you go bishop e6 here. So you defend this knight with your bishop, and you're asking them to go for knight g5. You can pause the video and try to find what's the move on knight g5 immediately. But I'll show you now what is the move. It's actually knight c3. So just because his king is not castled, when queen trade happens, and I take back with my rook, I'm threatening mate here on d1. So he cannot really do anything about this bishop. And if he retakes my knight, I'm gonna simply win a bishop pair, also prevent castling, and already have much better game. So this is a very nice trick to know, that if they go immediately knight g5, you have knight c3, very nice refutation. So that's why they have to castle, or to play queen e2. My opponent went for queen e2 immediately. I went knight c7. So as I told you, you should always look for trades, because the more you trade, this pawn on e5 will become bigger weakness. So he castled, I went g6, knight c3, bishop g7. I'm not afraid of rook d1, I'm going queen c8. Looks a little bit tied up for black, but sooner or later you'll see what's actually happening. They went knight e4, now I trade and offer more trade. So he's not accepting the queen trade, of course. He will be very, very sad if he trade queens, then this pawn is definitely lost. So he brought a queen back. Now I castled, and after knight c5 I brought a queen back on c8. I shouldn't do that. For some reason, engine is saying just go and let him take this pawn because you need initiative, you need fight. This knight is kind of stuck now, threatening rook b8. To be honest, for human, I just wanted to play quick and not, you know, playing anything complicated. He went now for e6, and this is actually another sacrifice of pawn that doesn't work in Alapin. You just take this pawn, they take back, you just take, they take, and they just take. So we kind of reached the position we just had in the previous game, right? But even much better version because we successfully traded one knight, which is already fine for us. On the other side, they cannot play rook d7 because we have rook d8 and they need to trade rooks. They cannot capture any of these pawns because, by the way, there is a rook d1 checkmate. So they have king safety issue, back rank issue. Also, they have problem with developing the bishop. That's why already engine is showing nice advantage. Even though we have double pawns are, you know, in endgames are good because if it's a clear pawn up, why not even having a double pawn? They went rook b1, I offered a rook trade, and now I take here another pawn because if they take here, we take this guy, and if they take down like they did, they still can't take this bishop because we have rook d1. According to the engine, they said that it's not good because I unnecessarily opening the b line and the counterplay. From the human perspective, maybe it's just fine move. According to engines, b6 was better because stopping the counterplay later when I take the pawn on b2. Anyway, I proceed with this line, move my bishop back, then also managed to capture the pawn on a2, and we got into this position. It's kind of equal, but double pawn is double pawn, and look what happened. They went here, I went rook c2, they went here, I went e5, restricting the knight. So you see, if I don't have this pawn, I'm not gonna have control over the e5 square, so it's nice. Then I went e4, my opponent went here, I took, they took back, I went here. Not ideal, because they have some bishop h6, I was starting missing something very big from white, but I'm still fine because I'm having some tricks on mind. This is a nice offer of trade, and now they didn't accept it and now knight f5. I was actually hoping that they will blunder with rook e7 just because my rook is pinning the pawn, and when they take this guy, I'll take here with check, and now game is over. So they blundered. And if they, by the way, here move the rook somewhere else, like rook a7, I'm gonna still have knight f5, which is a very powerful move. And if they move the bishop somewhere, like, I don't know, let's say bishop f4, now I have e3. So it's still very tricky for them. My king is very safe, even though I'm, you know, cut off. I'm very safe. As you see, another endgame happened. Later on, we just, you know, continued by playing some moves, and I won later in the game. And the last game I want to show you is when they go c3, but here if they play knight f3, we are just in transposition of delayed Alapin. d4, it could be another transposition. Just here, instead of knight c6, it's better to go for d6, because when you go knight c6, they have this knight c3 move, and now you can go for d6, and if you take here, that's actually comfortable position for white. White is actually super fine. On d5, you know, they can even ignore you. Actually, much better for black in the long term is to have the pawn on b2, because this pawn gives stability to d4, and usually white is successfully organizing the attack on the king side with this pawn chain in the middle. So that's why never take this guy on c3 if they offer you. That's why I should play d6 instead of knight c6. But my opponent didn't know that. He just transposed it into the same line. Then we go d6 here, and after bishop c4, I just take. I can play knight b6, but I told you we can just take. After they take back, we go bishop to e6, defend this guy, they castled, and now g6. So where we are going now, they can now go for knight g5, and this line is actually very crazy because you're actually allowing your opponent to double up your pawns, but your stability in the center is very huge. When they go f4, you want to go queen b6, and on king h1, you want to bring this rook to d8. This position requires a bit of, you know, experience, since it's unstable. They have bishop pair, but you have a nice compensation because these pawns are again exposed, and after castles you can put a pressure on f4. Also, you're looking forward maybe to relocate the knight on f5. You can play queen c5 later. Just don't look to push these guys on queenside. They have always super nice counterplay with a4. That's about this line, but usually no one is entering this. People are usually playing queen e2 here, where I'm recommending again knight e7. We are now just transposing it to the same line we had in the past game. This is usually what I get, and I think you're gonna get the same thing in your games. Takes, takes. Maybe with queen is better actually here, because this knight is good to kind of restrict their knight. Knight takes e6, knight e5, castles. Okay. They went bishop e3, I went rook e8, maybe not the best option. It's a little bit passive. I should go immediately rook d8. I should not be afraid of anything on the e7. But let's see what happened. I misplayed something here. They play knight g5 and they blundered, because I can just take and now win the pawn. So you see, if they blunder, that's it, like game is over. And for black it's really hard to blunder here because everything is under control. And after trading, I told you like to trade, especially when you're up something. And you can see, pawn up, looking for more simplification. Not the most precise moves, of course, but looks promising anyway. Now we enter here, and my opponent pretty much couldn't do anything. I maybe should go for something like king e6 or moving my rook somewhere here. Instead I go rook e6, which was very passive, but I wanted from him to, when he takes and give me this check, to have rook e7. Actually I should take this guy, of course, because then this becomes very big weakness. My king can start walking in. Now rook endgame is winning, but you know, we are both low on time, that's why many mistakes are happening. Apparently at some moment I won the pawn here, and now I'm very quick, especially my king walks in, and they will never be able to control anything. Here we have check, and now after h2 it's mate. So you see, most of the games are leading to some endgame where you're usually fine without any problems. And yeah, Alapin is, you know, very annoying opening. I know that. That's why I made this video for you. I hope you like it. And if you want extended version of this entire Sicilian Alapin, I'm gonna put the link in the description so you can actually check it and take your PGN file with you. I'm gonna also put the link of the description of my product about the whole repertoire about anti-Sicilians, so you know, once you get it, you're not gonna have problems anymore from any anti-Sicilians generally against white. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.